guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I. My name is Joshua Ansley, and this week I want to talk about change, right? So, as we know, change is the only constant in life. And I've said recently, when we're talking about the way the external world works, everything in the physical world, in the physical reality that we understand, and that includes anything energetic, so on the subtler levels, our thoughts, our emotions, all of that, right? That's all external when I talk about the external world. And everything in this external created reality, which we call prakriti, right? Everything in created reality is constantly changing. It is never staying still. There is absolutely no steadiness. Everything is always moving. Even things that look solid, like these walls, these concrete walls, right? All the molecules are constantly moving and adjusting and changing, right? Energetically, everything is shifting. And everything in this created reality is constantly growing and moving and collapsing, right? It's the rise and the fall, the decay, even within the breath, there's the rise and the fall of the breath. Everything comes in these waves, right? So if we're looking for that stability in this external world, we will inevitably, invariably be disappointed. It cannot be any other way. You may be able to find some stability and strength in something externally for a period of time. So that doesn't mean that we don't rely on something external to help us through times maybe, or the support of our families and loved ones and things like that. But understanding that everything on long-term scale, everything is going to pass. It's going to collapse. It's going to crumble. That is the nature of it. Nothing is eternal except for the eternal. The very core of who we are, the divine principle of our own nature, right? That, and this is what I talk about, if that doesn't even exist, if this concept of something that is outside of this physical reality and this whole understanding of this constantly moving and changing and collapsing and rising and falling and all that stuff, if this space outside of that doesn't actually even exist, it doesn't matter. Because when we believe and we work into a psychology of that, then we are working with principles that are taking us into a place of stability and strength and steadiness. And the reason we are able to observe the change is because we are actually observing from the changeless. That space at the core of who we are is unable to be changed. It is unable to be moved. It is absolute. It is everywhere. It is everything. It is one and all. It is connection. It is the one without a second. That there is nothing to oppose it. No weapon forged against it could be victorious. Right? It's in a space that, anahata, I talk about anahata, the heart space, which means unstruck. It's a space that cannot be wounded. It cannot be struck. It cannot be touched by anything physical. It cannot be touched or altered or abused or destroyed in any way by even your own thoughts or your own emotions or your own opinions. It is completely outside of all of that. And just setting ourselves up in that psychology then sets us up into a space of steadiness and stability and serenity. The more we work with that, it's not just a piece of knowledge that you come with and you're like, oh, that knowledge has to be transmuted, has to be changed and converted into wisdom, right? And there's that great prayer that is, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The power in accepting the things you cannot change. Right? It's not complacency. There is a major shift when you come into acceptance of the things you cannot change. The courage to change the things that you can. To have that courage to be able to change the things that we can. And of course, the wisdom to know the difference. That is a fundamental part of it. And there's an even better version of that prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change. The courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that one is me. Because as I always say, it is not the world, but how we are relating to it that causes the suffering. On these fundamental levels, when you start to work with these principles, it changes your entire understanding of the world. So these concepts, even if you've heard them or heard me say them before or worked with them before, it's not just hearing it once. It's actually working with it on a regular basis that starts to change and transform you. Right? And when you move into that space of the changeless, When you start to operate from that sakshi, from the witness, from the observer, you're then able to become a more active participant in this world from that space of the observer. Because the hardest thing that we could possibly do is actually change ourselves. And that's where true happiness is going to come from, changing the way we operate, from changing ourselves. It's not expecting other people to behave a certain way or expecting other people to change. That's going to cause insanity. And if you actually see how difficult it is to change yourself, then you'll actually see that it's crazy to think that anyone else is going to change. And so we have to be willing to look at ourselves and see that on deeper and deeper levels, on fundamental ways of operating, it is outside of those ways of being. It's things that we can't even see until we start to become aware. So a simple process like a breath work, a breath practice, when we just start to have a mindfulness practice of our breath, it shifts everything because you suddenly start to become aware. When you start to just stop seeking it in the external world, which is constantly shifting and changing and moving, and you start to turn inwards and find that stability within, everything shifts. Everything changes. Just from that simple awareness, from coming into awareness. And when you see awareness in your life, it can be one of the most difficult processes ever to endure. Because you start to be aware of how responsible you are. Not just for the shit that's happening, you're not necessarily responsible for what other people are doing. You're not responsible for what other people are doing. But you'll start to see how responsible you are for where you are in your life. And that means the hope then is that you can change. As difficult as it may be, it is fundamentally almost impossible. It may seem impossible at times, right, to actually change and shift these spaces, because when you start to recognize that it's your opinions are just your opinions, that's it. The way you think it should be, on deeper fundamental levels, you have drawn in people into your life that operate in the same ways that you do, so you're living in a small little box of understanding. When you start to expand outside of that, when you start to change, and you start to change you, and the way you view the world, and the way you see things, everything starts to fall into place. It's absolutely amazing. So, the fundamental change that we say, be the change that you want to see in the world. And what that really means on deeper levels, of how difficult it can be. So you need to take it easy with yourself. And the real change might just be learning to love yourself. When you start to let love just heal the wounds from within, and you let those wounds be healed by love, and you learn to love yourself so that you can learn to love others, and you can learn to be loved, and learn what love is, right? Because that change, to see that you have a certain understanding of what love is, that the way you grew up, and the way you were shown love. So there might be a need for a fundamental shift in understanding what love is compared to attachment, right? So when you start to learn to love yourself from within and start to let that be effulgent out of you, right, it will shift everything. In the Keshe Kin, I am you, you are me. Namaste.
She's a modern yogi, she loves to stand up on her hands. Yes, it feeds your ego, that's exactly what she needs. Now tell me, why the hell do you give a damn? So pardon elocution of my Sanskrit declension, termination, and know whatever that means. But I know when she's in the Prasarita Pada Tanasana, she's the hottest asana that I've ever seen. She goes